We're rolling.
Welcome to the House Dudes podcast, where we invite you to follow us on our journey towards financial freedom using the power of real estate. I'm Jack Haas.
And I'm Josh Koth. Here at House Dudes, we believe in a couple key principles. Number one, the best way to retain information is by teaching it to others. And number two, a rising tide lifts all boats. We're not competitors, we're a community. So let's get into some real estate investing.
Well, we have a bit of a treat here this week. We have Mark Podolsky on the call, who is known as the Land Geek, right, Mark?
That's right. That's right.
And I've caught you on quite a few other podcasts, and I can't thank you enough to being on our show. What I think is really kind of cool and neat is what you actually do, and it's all about raw land, right?
It is all about raw land, and I argue that it is the best passive income model.
And after being a wet and long winter here in this part of the world, and I'm dealing with flooded basements and everything under the sun right now, it really intrigues me. So
yeah, I'm going to convert you, Jack.
And so why should I invest in raw land?
So I think the number one reason to invest in raw land is that it's the most simple model there is. So let me walk you through it, and then we can argue about it if you want. Right?
Well, you're not going to get any argument from me.
I'm not going to get an argument. Okay. Well, I mean, the way that I do it, you don't need outside capital. You don't need to get private money. So, like, I started with $3,000. So the money part is like a really big part for most people. It doesn't take a lot of money to get started. And then we remove all the headaches. And so there's no renters, there's no rehabs, there's no rodents, there's no renovations. Mm-hmm. So I'll kind of walk you through it and then kind of go from there and see where this leads us. So you're in Minnesota, right? Mm-hmm. And I contact the county assessor or the county treasurer. Let's say that the property is in Texas. And I'm seeing, oh my gosh, there's Jack Haas. He owes $200 in back taxes on this 10-acre parcel in Texas. Mm-hmm. So you're advertising two things to me. Number one, you have no emotional attachment to that raw land. You're in Minnesota, the property is in Texas. And number two, you're distressed financially in some way with that piece of property, because when we don't pay for things, we don't value it. And you haven't paid your property taxes. And as a result of you not paying your property taxes, you're getting notices from the county treasurer every month that if you don't pay your taxes, you're going to lose that property to a tax lien or a tax deed investor. Mm-hmm. So you're eventually going to lose it. So I actually will look at the comparable sales on that 10-acre parcel. And I'm going to take the lowest comparable sale for the last 12 to 18 months. So these are properties that have sold per the public records for the last 12 to 18 months. And then I'm going to just divide by 4. And that's going to get me what Warren Buffett would call a 300% margin of safety. So let's say, for example, the lowest comp is $10,000. The most I'm going to pay for your property, Jack, is $2,500. So I don't want to be like the house guys. I don't want to say I'm interested in buying your raw land and then getting to a negotiation with you. I'm actually going to send you an offer in the mail of $2,500. So you do the math. You're like, well, $2,500 is better than nothing. So you accept my offer. Now, in reality, 3 to 5% of people accept our quote unquote top dollar offer, but you accept it. And then I'm going to go through due diligence or in-depth research on that property. And I'm going to make sure you still own the property. I'm going to make sure that the back taxes are only $200. I'm going to confirm that there's been no breaks in the chain of title. There's no liens or encumbrances. I'm going to go through this whole due diligence checklist. And I actually outsource that to my team in the Philippines. We pay about $11 for that. And while they're doing the due diligence, at the same time, we're creating our marketing package, because what I'm going to want to know is what my new buyer is going to want to know. So I'm getting plat maps. I'm getting GIS maps. I'm getting aerial maps. I'm getting photos. I'm getting videos, all while we're doing our due diligence. Mm-hmm. So everything checks out. I buy the property from you for $2,500. And then, Jack, I have a built-in best buyer. I'm going to sell this property 30 days or less. So do you know who my buyer is?
No.
The neighbors.
Yeah.
The neighbors. So I'm going to send out neighbor letters saying, hey, here's your opportunity. Expand your holdings, protect your views, improve your privacy. And oftentimes the neighbors will buy that 10-acre parcel just because of that fear. Who's going to be my neighbor? Now, if the neighbors pass, I'll go to my buyers list. If my buyers list passes, I'll go to a little website you've probably never heard of called Craigslist. It's the 10th most trafficked website in the US. I'll go to an even smaller one, Facebook, buy-sell groups and marketplace. And the way that I'm going to sell it is I'm going to make it irresistible. I'm going to make it a car payment. So I'm going to ask for a $2,500 down payment. So I want to get my money out on the down, or maybe within 6 months of the down. And then I'm making a car payment. Let's say $449 a month, 9% interest over the next 84 months. So it's a one-time sale, and I get $449 a month for the next 84 months, and I don't have to deal with any tenants, toilets, termites, anything like that.
So, I've heard a few other people getting into this game here now. How is the competition when it comes to people getting into this type of land flipping?
Yeah. It's so funny that people think there's competition in land flipping. So if you go to a RIA meeting, a real estate investment association meeting, there's 100 people in that room. 99 of them are going to be house flippers, landlords, or wholesalers. You and I will be the only land people. There are billions of acres of land available and a handful of people doing it. You, me, literally 1 million people could be in this niche, which, by the way, is the least sexy niche in real estate. Like, if you go on HGTV or the DIY network and see me on Flip This Land, the before pictures are a piece of raw land. The after pictures are a piece of raw land. Like, it's not sexy. So there really is no competition.
So, is this a pretty common scenario that you're laid out here? A 0.25% of the value you're purchasing these for, and then you're getting essentially that cash back in a down payment, and then you're basically carrying a note for the.
I mean, I've done this 6,000 times now, full time since 2001. My clients are doing it every day. And the geeky part of it is we have it 90% automated with software on the front end and the back end. So I work about 2 hours a week in Frontier Properties, on this business.
So is the software the automation that you leverage, is that something that you provide to others then, or how does that work?
Yeah, I have proprietary software that's, strictly for my niche. But, there are other ways that you could do it yourself. If we're pretty geeky and technical, you could use a combination of Podio, Globiflow, and Zapier and create these automations. I just didn't want to have to be so dependent on 3 different platforms and the pricing on 3 different platforms to make my business work. I didn't want to, build on somebody else's land. So we hired a dev team to essentially, do all those things.
Sure.
So I can automate my mailings using an API with lob.com. I go through each step of it from due diligence to marketing, and then selling. All the contracts are automated. So what used to take me 20 minutes in paperwork now takes 2 seconds. And then from there, on the back end, we use geekpay.io, which automates getting paid. So it's a set it and forget it system where we get our down payment, and then via ACH, the money flows out from our buyer's bank account. And if that ACH would fail, then we have a credit card on file as a backup. So I used to have an 8% default rate. Now it's 4% with GeekPay. And I don't ever have to take that annoying 2 phone calls. Hey, Mark, what's my current balance? Because they can log in and see it. Or, hey, Mark, how do I make a prepayment this month? Because they can log in and do it themselves. It's really a fantastic piece of software.
How long did it take to get that all developed? I mean, you've been doing this
for quite a while now. I'm sure it took a lot to dial this in.
Years.
Yeah.
Years. I've been doing this for years. So, you know, every day is about this Japanese term called Kaizen, you know, continuous improvement. So we try to eliminate every kind of pain point possible in the business. And as the years go on, like from when I first started in 2001 to today, I mean, with global talent, systems, automation, software, it's the best time ever to be in business.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, based on this, you try to calculate the returns on something like this. If you're getting the down payment back, I mean, your returns are essentially infinite. I mean, there's no way to really calculate that. How do you, what is like, can you go back and paint that perfect picture? Like, what are you driving for in order for you to pursue that type of property? Like, what would be the best deal? Like, give me your best deal. What was your best situation?
Well, my best deal was a deal in Nevada. I bought thousands and thousands of acres from the railroad, and it was a complicated deal. But essentially, I owner financed $1 million. So I borrowed $1 million. I had to put 20% down, but on that one deal, I bought 640 acre sections. I subdivided them into 40s, and I paid $50 an acre from the company, and I was selling it for $500 an acre. So I made over $5 million just on that one deal. That's been my best deal. But I would say that from a yield standpoint, we're looking at a 300 to 1,000% return on our investment.
Mm-hmm.
On average, because of time value of money.
One of the other unique things that you're doing is you're essentially, where we're sending out yellow letters or postcards to try to get that conversation started. And then after you go through that vetting process, then you might provide some sort of offer. You're basically sending that an offer like right out of the chute. That's really interesting.
Yeah, because the philosophy is I can always make more money. I can't get more time. Mm-hmm. So anything that's going to save me time, like I don't want to be in the negotiation business. And, you asked about the competition. It's not like housing where if you don't respond really quickly to that person that might be interested in selling their house, they might have 5, 6, 7 multiple offers on the table. Mm-hmm. Right behind you. It's not like that with raw land. You might be the only person that they're talking to.
Mm-hmm. So, and then your response rate compared to what we would see, I'm lucky if I'm getting 1%. You're saying you're getting a 3 to 5% response rate on these?
Yeah, again, because it's raw land. So the emotional piece of it is very different. I mean, you're talking about somebody's largest asset, and the logistics of having to move is very difficult versus dirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's not a ton of emotional. You don't have the grandfather building the house. You don't have that emotional attachment as much anyway.
No, I mean it's very rare actually to see any emotional attachment to the raw land. It's usually, hey, we bought this, we thought we were going to do something with it. Life got in the way, we never did. And now we're just tired of paying the property taxes on it, and we're never going to go out there. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, what was once an asset to them is now a liability.
So what are the things that a person would have to be successful doing this type of thing? We have a kind of a mantra here. It's persistent, consistent behavior. Is that a relatively true statement in this case too?
Yeah. We like to talk about M&Ms, mailing and marketing.
Sure.
You've got to send out at least 20 offers a day. So we kind of break it down because if I tell you, hey, look, make 1,000 offers a month minimum, right? That can be overwhelming. It'd be like, hey, you're just starting to work out and I'm telling you, go work out for 2 hours. Like you're going to burn out fast. But 20 offers a day is kind of like the 7-minute workout type of approach where you can get that done. If you're doing it manually, you can do it in less than 30 minutes. If you're doing it like I do automated, you can do it in less than a minute. And it's just very achievable as far as a consistent creating this habit of getting your mailing out every single day. Getting in that habit, 20 offers a day is going to move the needle, because when we start doing the math on that, even if you only do 100 offers a week, that's 3 to 5 deals a week. So that's what, 12 to 20 a month. If you get, let's say on the low side, let's just say you do 10 a month, that's 120 a year. And let's say you do 120 a year, let's just make it really low. Let's just say that your average note is $200 a month. I mean, you can see how it adds up pretty quickly.
And you don't have a furnace going out to destroy your cash flow.
I mean, that's the thing. No one's ever called me up at 2 a.m. and said, "Hey, my raw land is leaking. Can you come out here?" It's like, it's really headache free.
Sure. So what drives you to share all this information? I mean, I think you've even written a book, right? Dirt Rich.
Yeah, I wrote a book called Dirt Rich: How One Ambitiously Lazy Geek Created Passive Income in Real Estate Without Renters, Renovations, and Rehabs. And people are really loving the book. I kind of talk about my story in there and the mistakes I made and then the model. And so it's interesting because I was on vacation and I got a call from a guy who said, "Hey, I want you to teach me what you do." And he just went on my website and he was just intrigued by the business. I said, "Well, I don't do that." And he's like, "Well, how about if I offer you this much?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, maybe I can." So I said to my wife, I'm like, "Honey, this guy wants me to teach him how to buy and sell raw land." And she said, well, that's dumb. You're going to create your own competition. So I said, "Yeah, you're right. That doesn't seem like a smart idea." So I'm like, well, I have an investment banking background. So, from an investment banking standpoint, we always look at how big is the market. So we just did some math, and it turned out that there is no competition. Like, we'll all run out of money before we run out of deal flow. And I walked my wife through the numbers. I walked myself through the numbers. And so I thought, well, this is a nice way to give back. And for me, it's been the most gratifying thing I've ever done professionally, because I'll be honest, I mean, selling land is great for 5 people and my family and my kids and the 5 of us. But as far as like the people buying the land from me, they never called me up with tears in their eyes saying, "Hey, Mark, you literally changed the trajectory of my life." Where my clients now, Roberto Chavez, who's a full-time attorney, he's up to $12,500 passive income, and he's got a choice now. He can quit his, law firm job or continue practicing part-time and just, do that. I've had so many clients, they've been able to quit their jobs, travel the world, spend more time with their family, retire their spouses, whatever their passive income goals have been. And to have that kind of impact is, I can literally die in peace now. And it's the best feeling ever.
So, a lot of us are working, the progression seems to be with most real estate investors is you start with single family homes and it's like you're playing Monopoly, we're trying to trade up to multifamily investing. What started you on the raw land thing? I mean, it is kind of a unique concept. I mean, did you just fall backwards into it? Like something presented itself at one time, like a rich dad, poor dad parable, and you saw an opportunity and took it?
Yeah. I mean, I was working with private equity groups, working in mergers and acquisitions, and I hated it. I just felt micromanaged and I had no control, and 45-minute commute to work and back. It was really miserable. And my firm hired this guy, and he's telling me that as a side hustle, he was going to tax deed auctions he was buying up raw land, pennies on the dollar, flipping them online and making 300% on his money. Well, I'm looking at companies all day long, and a great company at 15% EBITDA margins or free cash flow. The average company is at 10%, and I'm looking at companies all day long, less than 10%. So I had $3,000 saved up for car repairs. I go with him to this, auction in New Mexico, and I buy up 10 half-acre parcels at an average price of $300 each, put them up online. They all sold for an average price of $1,200 each cash, and it was 300%. And I took all that money and went to another auction where I live in Arizona, and this is 2000. There's no one in the room, and I'm buying up lots and acreage for like nothing. And I sold all that property. I made over $90,000 cash on that one auction. And I go to my wife. I'm like, honey, I want to quit my job and become a full-time land investor. She's pregnant at the time. Mm-hmm. She said, absolutely not. So I said, okay. So I worked the land investing business part-time. And it took about 18 months for the land investing business to exceed my investment banking income. And then I quit, and I've been doing it full-time ever since.
So what, you've brought up your wife a couple times. Like what type of steps did you take, or what kind of, how did you get her on board finally on this?
Well, I kind of just said to her, look, I'm like, let's just look at it from a worst case scenario, because I was scared and she was scared, and, we didn't want to lose our money, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it was just scary. So I said, okay, let's just take a look at the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is we own raw land. It's a piece of paper. I'm not going to muck up the garage with a bunch of inventory. It's not going to affect our life in any way. I'm like, you know what? If I really had to, I could barter these, this land with my dentist or my barber and get free haircuts or free dentistry or something. Like, we're not going to get stuck with it, even if even if I couldn't sell it online. And she said, okay, that makes sense. I'm like, the property taxes on this stuff is so low anyways. It's not going to be a big deal. And so we really walked through the risks of it, and the risk reward ratio made so much sense that it was dumb not to try it.
Mm-hmm. So could you talk a little bit about like where you focus on getting this land? Like, do you stick around like growing communities? Do you deal mostly in farmland? Are you all over the United States, or do you focus on different regions?
Yeah, I mean, Jack, let's be honest. Nobody wakes up and thinks to themselves, boy, I'd like some raw land in Minnesota today. unless you live in Minnesota.
Right.
So I focus on the fastest growing states, and those are the sunshine states. So Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Texas, a little bit in the Northwest, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, California, and Florida. So I've done deals in the Midwest. I've done deals in Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, but I don't focus on them. They have to be kind of more opportunistic. Mm-hmm. And I've had clients do deals in upstate New York. Again, I don't want to deal with anything like near New Jersey and environmental issues and those types of things. So, New Jersey, there could be a Superfund site you buy out there that could bankrupt you, because now you're on the hook for that cleanup. Mm-hmm. So, obviously you can go to EPA.gov, which is something that we, for our due diligence, we always double check just to make sure we're not buying in any environmental area. But, so that's what I like to do, because if you're living in New York or, Boston, LA, some of these big cities, Chicago, the idea of owning, this piece of raw land that, it is in a pristine, fast growing area is really, really, a nice feeling. And most of the properties we buy have no restrictions, so it's only limited by their imaginations.
Mm-hmm. So what you've pointed out there is that a lot of those places and locations that you just rattled off, they are ones off the radar altogether, because you just can't buy properties houses or any kind of thing in those areas for them to cash flow. I mean, but you're buying land and making this work.
Right, exactly. I'm making raw land cash flow just like you would a house.
Mm-hmm. But like in California, a lot of those places, I couldn't buy a house at the price I would need to in order to rent it to cash flow properly.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're like in a housing model, you will want to be in the Midwest because you're going to get a more, probably a stable tenant, and a better price,
Right.
for sure. You don't hear about a lot of great deals in California and Florida and those states, but the raw land that's in those inexpensive counties, it's a completely different game.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really appreciate you joining us, and I have a feeling if we'll just keep going down a rabbit hole if I keep asking you questions. So, but I do want to make sure that everybody can find you, because I know you have a podcast of your own, the Land Geek podcast.
Yeah, I've got 3. I've got the Land Geek podcast, the Best Passive Income Model podcast, and the one that's current is the Art of Passive Income podcast. And if they go to the landgeek.com, they can get information on all those podcasts. And, we have a passive income blueprint. And actually, I've got a $97 course I'd love to offer your listeners for free, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so it's just the landgeek.com/launch kit.
Okay.
And they can go there and really kind of see if it's something that makes sense to them or not.
Great. And I'll make sure I include all of those type of links in the show notes so everybody has easy access to it. So just go to the reirookies.com page. And where can they pick up your book, that Dirt Rich?
Yeah, so on Amazon, they can search for Dirt Rich, or they can go to the landgeek.com/Dirt Rich and get the book there and get bonuses as well.
Okay, great. Well, I can't thank you enough, Mark. It was a pleasure to have you on the show, and I look forward to running into you on an upcoming event somewhere.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jack. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
We've put a lot of effort into providing useful content, and if you found value in the show and have any interest in supporting us with a small donation, head over to patreon.com/housedudes. And if you have any thoughts or questions, shoot us an email at info@housedudes.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter @housedudes. And if you like what you're hearing, head over to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really helps other investors out there find the show. And remember, massive positive impact requires massive positive action. We'll see you next time. This episode was brought to you by HouseDudes.com. Do you live in a good cash flowing market? If so, Turnkey isn't the best choice for you. You should buy in your market. If you don't live in a great market for investors, where can you find profitable cash flowing properties? We love the Midwest, where prices are reasonable and the people are great. We personally invest here and have lived in the area all of our lives. So how does Turnkey work? We find the property, we rehab the property, and we find you a tenant and place you under the care of our local property manager, who we trust with all our own investment properties. I'm sure you have questions about how the process works and what to do next. If that's the case, fill out the contact form on housedudes.com and we'll reach out to see if you are a good fit for our business. We have a limited supply of properties every month, so we can only sell to a select few qualified buyers. We'll see you on housedudes.com.
I don't like to tell a man what to do with his money, but if you ain't investing in property, then you're dumber than a dummy.
I'm not dumb. I'm smart.
Well, buy property. That's my advice.